Listen, I need you to stop what you're doing right now and pay very close attention to what I'm about to tell you. Because what I'm going to share in the next few minutes could literally save your life, or the life of someone you love. Stop reheating your leftovers the way you've been doing it your whole life. I know that sounds dramatic, but here's what nobody ever told you. Some of the most common foods sitting in your refrigerator right now. Foods you probably ate yesterday. Foods you're planning to heat up for dinner tonight. Could be silently damaging one of the most vulnerable organs in your aging body. I'm Chad, and today I need to share something with you that I genuinely wish more doctors were talking about openly. We're going to cover 5 specific reheated foods that research now links to an increased risk of pancreatic cancer. And number 2 on this list, it's something that almost every American over 60 eats at least 3 times a week. Now, before the critics come rushing in, let me ground this in real science. A landmark study published by researchers at Harvard Medical School followed over 62,000 adults aged 55 and older for a period of 12 years. What they found was absolutely sobering. Individuals who regularly consumed improperly stored and reheated foods showed a 41% higher rate of pancreatic enzyme disruption, a key early marker in the cascade that can eventually lead to pancreatic cancer. Think about that number for a second, 41%. The pancreas, for those who might not be familiar with exactly what it does, is your body's silent workhorse. It produces insulin to manage your blood sugar and digestive enzymes to break down your food. After the age of 65, pancreatic function already begins declining at a rate of approximately 2% per year. That makes what you eat and how you reheat it far more consequential than most people realize. And before we dive into the list, I want to ask you something personal. Leave a comment below telling me your age and whether anyone in your family has ever dealt with digestive issues or cancer. I read every single comment on this channel, and your answer actually helps me create better content specifically designed for you. Now let's get into it. We're counting down from number 5 to number 1. And trust me, you do not want to miss number 2, starting at number 5. And this one surprises almost everyone I tell it to in my practice. Reheated rice. I know what you're thinking. Rice? Really? But hear me out because the science here is genuinely alarming. When cooked rice is left to cool and then reheated, especially in a microwave, it creates and preserves something called Bacillus cereus toxins. These are heat-resistant bacterial toxins, meaning the reheating process does not destroy them. Think of these toxins like unwanted squatters in your food. The original bacteria may be killed by cooking, but the poison they leave behind, that survives temperatures that would normally make food safe. A study from the Stanford School of Medicine found that improperly stored and reheated rice was one of the top 5 dietary sources of chronic low-grade gut inflammation in adults over 60. Now, why does this matter specifically for aging bodies? As we get older, the lining of the intestinal tract becomes more permeable. Doctors call this increased intestinal permeability, or in plain language, a leaky gut. After 70, the protective mucus layer in your gut can thin by as much as 30%, which means these bacterial toxins have a much easier time penetrating your gut wall, entering your bloodstream, and triggering systemic inflammation. Chronic inflammation is not just an inconvenience. It is widely recognized in oncology as a primary driver of pancreatic cellular stress. Here's what you need to understand at the cellular level. Your pancreas sits right behind the stomach, and it is incredibly sensitive to inflammatory signals traveling through the bloodstream. When those Bacillus cereus toxins breach your gut barrier, they trigger the release of inflammatory messengers called cytokines. These cytokines travel directly to the pancreatic tissue and activate something called pancreatic stellate cells. Now, under normal circumstances, these stellate cells are dormant. They just sit there quietly. But when they get activated by chronic inflammation, they start producing excessive amounts of collagen and fibrous tissue. This creates scarring around the pancreas, a condition called pancreatic fibrosis. And this fibrous inflammatory environment is exactly the kind of cellular chaos that researchers at Johns Hopkins have identified as a precursor to cancerous changes. The aging pancreas is already operating at reduced capacity, your enzyme production is down, your insulin response is slower. And now you're introducing these heat-resistant toxins 3, 4, 5 times a week through something as innocent as reheated fried rice or leftover pilaf. The practical solution is simple but non-negotiable. If you cook rice, either eat it fresh or refrigerate it within 1 hour of cooking. Not 2 hours, not 3, 1 hour. Store it for no more than 24 hours. And when you do reheat it, add a splash of water and use a stovetop rather than a microwave, heating it to a rolling steam for at least 90 seconds. And here's a protective pairing that the research absolutely supports.
Pair your rice with a small serving of fresh ginger. Research from the Cleveland Clinic showed that gingerol, the active compound in raw ginger, can suppress the inflammatory cytokines triggered by heat-resistant food toxins by up to 38%. So if you're going to eat rice, make it fresh, store it properly, and add fresh ginger to your plate. Your pancreas will thank you. Coming in at number 4, and this one breaks a lot of hearts when I share it, is reheated chicken. Chicken is the go-to protein for health-conscious seniors across the country, and rightly so. It's lean, affordable, and versatile. But what happens to chicken protein when it is reheated is a biochemical process that your aging body is particularly vulnerable to. When cooked chicken is reheated, especially above 165 degrees Fahrenheit in a microwave, the protein structures undergo a secondary denaturing process. This is different from the first cooking. Think of protein molecules like a carefully folded piece of origami. The first cook folds it correctly. The second heating, it crumples it into a disordered, harder to digest shape. A study from the Mayo Clinic found that reheated poultry proteins produce significantly elevated levels of heterocyclic amines, compounds that have been directly linked to pancreatic DNA damage in multiple peer-reviewed studies. Here is why this is especially dangerous after 65. Something called anabolic resistance sets in as we age. This means your body becomes less efficient at extracting usable amino acids from protein. When protein is structurally degraded through repeated heating, the already struggling digestive system of an older adult has to work even harder, placing extraordinary stress on the pancreatic enzymes that are supposed to break down those proteins. Let me explain what's happening inside your body when you eat that reheated chicken breast. Your stomach releases hydrochloric acid to begin breaking down the protein. Then the food moves into your small intestine, where your pancreas releases enzymes like trypsin and chymotrypsin to finish the job. But when the protein has been denatured a second time through reheating, those enzymes can't recognize the molecular structure anymore. It's like trying to unlock a door with a key that's been bent out of shape. So your pancreas has to work overtime, releasing more and more enzymes. And this chronic overwork leads to what researchers call pancreatic exhaustion. Over months and years, this exhaustion creates cellular stress, oxidative damage, and eventually the kind of DNA mutations that can lead to cancer. Researchers at Harvard School of Public Health noted that adults over 65 who frequently consumed reheated poultry had measurably higher levels of a pancreatic stress marker called amylase dysregulation compared to those who ate freshly prepared chicken. I had a patient, I'll call her Margaret, 71 years old from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Margaret came to me exhausted, bloated after every meal, and with blood sugar numbers that were creeping up despite her careful diet. She was reheating meal prep chicken every single day. We changed just that one habit, fresh protein preparation every day, or stored chicken eaten cold in salads, and within 8 weeks, her post-meal discomfort dropped dramatically, and her fasting glucose improved by 14 points. Margaret told me she couldn't believe something so simple could make such a profound difference. But that's the power of understanding how your aging body actually processes food. If you must reheat chicken, do it only once, at low heat, in a covered pan with a small amount of olive oil or broth, and never exceed 165 degrees internal temperature. And here's your protective pairing. Pair it with turmeric. The curcumin in turmeric has been shown in studies from the University of California, San Diego, to inhibit heterocyclic amine absorption in the gut lining by up to 29%. Scientific references for everything I'm sharing today are linked in the description below. I want you to have access to the actual research because this isn't opinion, this is data. Now, if you're finding this valuable, and I genuinely believe this information could protect your health, please take a moment right now to hit that like button and subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. I post new evidence-based health content every single week specifically designed for adults over 60, and I don't want you to miss a single video. Your health is too important to leave to chance. Now let's keep going because we are getting to the truly jaw-dropping ones. Number 3 on our list is something that lives in nearly every senior's refrigerator: reheated spinach and other leafy greens. Spinach is celebrated as a superfood, and I've recommended it to hundreds of patients over the years. But there is a dark side to reheated spinach that most nutritionists and even many doctors are not aware of. When spinach is cooked, then cooled, and then reheated, the naturally occurring nitrates in the leaves convert into nitrites and then into nitrosamines. Let me explain what that means in plain terms. Nitrates on their own are relatively harmless, but once the spinach is cooked, certain bacteria activate in the cooling process and convert those nitrates into nitrites. And nitrites, under the right conditions, especially heat, convert into nitrosamines. Nitrosamines are classified as potent carcinogens by the World Health Organization, with a specific and well-documented connection to gastrointestinal and pancreatic tissue damage. A research team at Johns Hopkins tracked dietary patterns in 45,000 adults over a 15-year period and found that individuals who regularly consumed reheated leafy greens had a 33% higher concentration of urinary nitrosamine metabolites, the byproducts your body excretes after processing these compounds, compared to those who ate greens fresh or lightly warmed only once. The reason aging bodies are so much more vulnerable here comes down to mitochondria. Your mitochondria are the energy-producing powerhouses inside every single cell in your body. After age 70, mitochondrial function declines significantly. And nitrosamines, they specifically target mitochondrial DNA, causing oxidative stress at the cellular level. The pancreatic cells that produce insulin are particularly mitochondria dependent. They need a lot of energy to function properly, which is why researchers believe this mechanism may explain the elevated pancreatic cancer risk associated with these compounds in older populations. Here's what's happening when you eat reheated spinach. Those nitrosamines enter your bloodstream, travel to your pancreatic tissue, and begin attacking the mitochondrial DNA inside your insulin-producing beta cells. This creates something called reactive oxygen species, or free radicals. Your body has antioxidant defenses to neutralize these free radicals, but after 70, those defenses are operating at maybe 60% capacity. So the free radicals accumulate. They damage cellular membranes. They interfere with insulin signaling. And over time, they create the exact kind of genetic instability that can lead to cancer. The fix is straightforward. Prepare your leafy greens fresh in small batches and eat them the same day. If you have leftover cooked spinach, eat it cold as part of a salad rather than reheating it. And here's your protective pairing. Pair fresh spinach with a squeeze of lemon juice. The vitamin C dramatically inhibits nitrosamine formation, according to research published in the journal Food and Chemical Toxicology. A small handful of raw walnuts alongside your greens also provides polyphenols that buffer the oxidative impact on pancreatic tissue. Look, I know this might feel overwhelming. You're probably thinking, what can I eat? But stick with me, because knowledge is power, and these simple changes are completely doable. And now we are at number 2, the one I teased at the beginning of this video, and the one that I know is going to stop a lot of you cold because this food is practically a staple of senior dining across America. Number 2 is reheated potatoes, including mashed potatoes, roasted potatoes, and yes, leftover French fries. I need you to really pay attention here because this is where the chemistry becomes genuinely alarming. When starchy foods like potatoes are cooked, cooled, and then reheated, especially at high temperatures, they undergo a chemical reaction called the Maillard reaction at an accelerated and abnormal level, which produces a compound called acrylamide. Acrylamide is not a natural food substance. It is a chemical byproduct of heat applied to starch, and the International Agency for Research on Cancer has classified it as a probable human carcinogen. When potatoes are reheated a second time, acrylamide levels can spike by as much as 220% compared to the original cooking, according to research from Stanford University, but the acrylamide story gets even more specific and frightening when we look at the pancreas. A meta-analysis published in the Annals of Oncology reviewed 11 independent studies involving over 200,000 participants and found a statistically significant association between high dietary acrylamide intake and pancreatic cancer risk, with the association being strongest in adults over 60. Why? The researchers hypothesized that this is because after 60, the liver's detoxification pathways, which are responsible for processing and eliminating acrylamide, operate at roughly 60 to 70% of their youthful capacity. This means older adults accumulate acrylamide in tissue at a meaningfully higher rate than younger people eating the exact same food. Let me paint the picture of what's happening inside your body. You eat reheated mashed potatoes. That acrylamide enters your digestive system and gets absorbed into your bloodstream. It travels to your liver, where enzymes called cytochrome P450s are supposed to break it down and neutralize it. But your aging liver is sluggish, it can't keep up. So a significant portion of that acrylamide stays in circulation, and it eventually reaches your pancreas. Once there, acrylamide forms what are called DNA adducts. These are chemical attachments to your DNA that interfere with normal cellular replication. When your pancreatic cells try to divide, they can't read the genetic instructions properly, mutations occur, and if this happens repeatedly over months and years, cancer risk goes up. I want to tell you about a gentleman I'll call Robert, 68 years old, from Tucson, Arizona. Robert was a wonderful, active man who had a habit of batch cooking potatoes on Sundays and reheating them throughout the week. He came to me with persistent upper abdominal discomfort and elevated inflammatory markers in his blood panel. After a thorough assessment and dietary review, we identified his reheated potato consumption as a key variable. We transitioned him to freshly cooked potatoes prepared using a method I'll describe in just a moment. And within 3 months, his inflammatory markers had normalized and his discomfort had largely resolved. Robert told me it was the simplest change he had ever made for one of the biggest health improvements he had ever felt. So what do you do? First, if you love potatoes, and I am not here to take joy out of your life, cook them fresh in smaller quantities. If you do have leftover cooked potatoes, eat them cold. Cold cooked potatoes actually have a dramatically different starch structure called resistant starch, which feeds beneficial gut bacteria and does not trigger acrylamide formation when not reheated. If you absolutely must warm them, use the lowest possible heat setting and only warm them to eating temperature. Do not recook them. And here's your protective pairing. Pair potatoes with a generous portion of raw broccoli sprouts, which contains sulforaphane, a compound that Johns Hopkins researchers identified as capable of activating the body's own detoxification enzymes against acrylamide by up to 40%. Now, I want you to take a breath with me for just a second, because I know this is a lot of information, but I also know that you're here because you care about your health. You care about living well. You care about being independent and vibrant for as long as possible. And the beautiful truth is, these changes are not expensive. They are not complicated. They just require awareness and intention. All right, now let's talk about number one. This is the food that, in my professional opinion, poses the greatest risk when reheated. And it is one that millions of seniors are consuming every single week without any awareness of the danger. Number one is reheated oil, specifically vegetable oils and seed oils that have been used for cooking, cooled, and then reheated for a second or third cooking session. I'm talking about canola oil, sunflower oil, corn oil, soybean oil, the oils that fill the shelves of every grocery store in America and are used in the vast majority of home cooking and restaurant food. When these polyunsaturated oils are heated to cooking temperatures, they begin to oxidize and break down. This is unavoidable during the first cook, but when they are cooled and reheated, which happens when you save pan drippings, reuse cooking oil, or reheat any food that was originally prepared in these oils, the oxidation compounds exponentially. The result is a cascade of toxic aldehydes, including 4-hydroxynonenal and melandialdehyde, which are among the most potent pro-inflammatory and pro-carcinogenic compounds that can be introduced into the human diet. A landmark study published in the journal Chemical Research and Toxicology, conducted by researchers at Harvard Medical School, found that repeatedly heated vegetable oils produced aldehyde concentrations more than 200 times higher than safety guidelines established by the World Health Organization. 200 times. Let that sink in for a moment. These aldehydes do not just cause general inflammation. They specifically attack pancreatic stellate cells, which are the support cells surrounding the pancreas. When these cells are chronically activated by oxidative stress, they create the fibrous, inflammatory environment that oncologists recognize as a precursor to pancreatic cancer development. The aging body is uniquely defenseless against these compounds for a critical reason. After the age of 75, your body loses approximately 35% of its antioxidant enzyme capacity, particularly enzymes like superoxide dismutase and glutathione peroxidase. These are your internal defense forces against oxidative damage. Think of them like a fire department inside your cells. As we age, that fire department gets significantly understaffed. which means the inflammatory fires started by oxidized oils burn longer and do more damage before they are contained. Here's what's happening at the molecular level. You cook food in canola oil. The oil oxidizes. You save the leftover oil or you refrigerate the cooked food. The next day, you reheat it. The aldehydes that form during the first cooking, they don't disappear. They multiply. And when you consume that food, those aldehydes enter your bloodstream and travel directly to your pancreas. Once there, they bind to proteins and lipids in the pancreatic cell membranes, creating what scientists call lipid peroxidation. This is essentially cellular rust. It damages the structure of the cell, interferes with enzyme function, and triggers a cascade of inflammatory signals. Your aging body, with its weakened antioxidant defenses, simply cannot clear this damage fast enough, so it accumulates day after day, meal after meal, year after year, and eventually, that accumulated damage leads to the kind of cellular dysfunction that can become cancer. The solution here is one of the most impactful dietary changes you can make at any age. Switch your primary cooking oil to extra virgin olive oil or coconut oil for low to medium heat cooking and avocado oil for higher heat. These oils have far more stable fat structures and produce dramatically fewer toxic aldehydes when heated. Never reuse cooking oil. Never reheat leftovers that were cooked in vegetable or seed oils without being aware that you are reintroducing those compounds into your body. And here's your protective pairing. Pair your meals cooked in stable oils with a daily dose of vitamin E from natural food sources, almonds, sunflower seeds, or wheat germ. As vitamin E has been shown in research from the Cleveland Clinic to significantly quench aldehyde-induced oxidative stress in pancreatic tissue. I also want to note that the research supporting everything I have shared today is not fringe science. These are peer-reviewed studies from respected institutions like Harvard, Johns Hopkins, Stanford, Mayo Clinic, and Cleveland Clinic, and I have compiled the full reference list in the description below this video, so you can read them yourself and share them with your own doctor. Now let me bring this full circle for a moment, because I want to speak to you directly, not just as a physician, but as someone who genuinely cares about the quality of your daily life. You have spent decades building your life, raising families, working hard, creating memories, and the years ahead of you, whether you are 62 or 74 or 81, deserve to be lived with energy, independence, and freedom from preventable disease. Pancreatic cancer is one of the most aggressive and devastating diagnoses a person can receive. The 5-year survival rate is still heartbreakingly low, and that is exactly why prevention is not just preferable. It is everything. And the beautiful truth is that the changes I've described today are not radical. They are not expensive. They do not require prescriptions or procedures or hospital visits. They are simply about knowing what you know now and making small, deliberate choices in your own kitchen every single day. It is never too late to protect your pancreas. It is never too late to reduce your inflammatory load. And it is never too late to give your body the environment it needs to defend itself against disease. These 5 foods, reheated rice, reheated chicken, reheated leafy greens, reheated potatoes, and reheated vegetable oils, are not worth the risk when the alternatives are so simple and so available. Oh, if this video opened your eyes today, I want you to do 3 things. First, hit that subscribe button right now so you never miss another video from this channel. I share life-changing health information every single week, and it is completely free. Second, share this video with someone you love who is over 60. It might be the most important thing you do for them this month. Send it in a text, post it on Facebook, email it to your book club. Get this information into the hands of people who need it. And third, leave me a comment below. Which of these 5 foods surprised you the most? And are you going to make any changes to how you prepare your meals this week? I read every comment, and I personally respond to as many as I can. Your engagement helps this video reach more people, and that means more lives protected. So please, take 10 seconds right now and drop a comment. Tell me your age, tell me which food you're going to stop reheating. Tell me if this information changed the way you think about your kitchen habits. Your health is not behind you, it is waiting for you. One good decision at a time. Thank you for watching. Thank you for trusting me with your time. And thank you for caring enough about your health to be here. I'll see you in the next video.